I thought this was almost as dominant as they could possibly play. There was some trepidation for me going into this game because I thought Michigan State, having lost 3 games in a row and having some pretty good players and having a team that had been blown out by Ohio State 2 years in a row, that Mel Tucker, the former Ohio State assistant, would have the team ready to play. And, Ohio State came out, and other than a blip in the first quarter where CJ Stroud and Emeka Egbuka kind of messed up a little bit on a side adjust on a coverage issue that changed right before the snap of the ball, it sounds like, and resulted in a pick six interception that Ohio State just blew their doors off. Ohio State had 420 yards of total offense in the first half, was tracking well toward a school record in that regard, and, just kind of played with their food in the second half, really didn't go out of their way to do a whole heck of a lot. So I don't know what else there is really to say. The defense was outstanding. The defense gave up 2 touchdowns, one of those by the starting defense, one of those by the backups again later in the game, an 80-yard touchdown drive. Up until that point, Michigan State at the end of the third quarter had 110 yards total offense against the first-team defense. So I would say this was about a 9 out of 10 in terms of annihilation of Michigan State, particularly on the road. 49-20 really doesn't typify how bad this was. And Ohio State was picking up yards, and again, as they do every week, in 10 and 12 and 14 and 20-yard chunks. And then they hit the big play every now and then as well. Just to remind you, I think they had 3 touchdown drives in excess of 85 yards. I don't have the box score in front of me, but I know a couple of them were in the 90s. They were pinned back to the 4-yard line, I think, on one punt, and had a penalty that pinned them back to the 2 or the 4-yard line as well on a kickoff. The one that Trianum, I think, finally got some traction on a kickoff return out to about the 30 or 40. And there's a flag laying back at the 5-yard line. Poor guy can't catch a break. He finally fielded one and returned it, and it didn't count. So, any rate, I don't know what else there is to say other than Michigan State's in a real bad way right now in terms of football, and this is not going to be one of their better seasons, it turns out. And Ohio State just went in there, obliterated them, got home, and the guys were told we're only going to practice 3 times this week, so live it up.
Yeah, looking at the game, I mean, it's just becoming commonplace for Ohio State to score on every first half drive. And even on the drive that they did because CJ Stroud threw the pick six. So you look at Ohio State through 6 games, it scored 98 first quarter points, which is up from 62 through 6 games last year. They're much more of an immediate get on you type of team than they were last season. Last season, they were a little bit more of a second quarter team. Again, you're doing this like last week without JSN, which has kind of been right and steady there on that situation, but no Mayan Williams. Trevion Henderson steps in. I mean, he gets dinged up in the game. We see a healthy dose of Dallin Hayden. Heck, we get to see Xavier Johnson, who probably could be playing at a lot of schools if we're being quite honest. He had Division I FBS offers, chose to walk on at Ohio State. Defensively, Tommy Eichenberg playing really well, Steele Chambers playing really well. I mean, we talk so much going into the season. Oh, linebackers. We really don't talk about the linebackers except to kind of praise them at this point. So, it was very much a paddling of Michigan State, and I think that everybody kind of expected it. Ohio State ended up covering. A lot of people was like, "Whoa, that's a really big line." Well, Michigan State isn't really good, and Ohio State came to prove that, and on to the next one. But we get the week off, and I know I'm going to be sitting on my sofa with a pork butt on the smoker and some beer in hand, watching football.
A pork butt on the couch and on the smoker. I know. I'm looking forward to having the weekend off, and it's a good weekend to have off with all of the undefeated games. I don't really have much more to add. I think, Mark, you hit it on the head that this was much more than a 29-point game. This could have been whatever. This was Ohio State calling off the dogs in the fourth quarter and giving Michigan State a free touchdown on the pick six. And this was as far apart from a 29-point game, I think, as we've ever seen. And this is still just an Ohio State offense that is 85% healthy, and an Ohio State defense that is not where it's going to be by the end of the season. So there's more to come. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens against Iowa. And just all of basically the September call-ups, except there'll be October call-ups with everybody being healthy and being more than just some AAA players, as we know. And so it's the whole sky is the limit thing, but also the level of play, the level of competition is going to raise up as well, because to this point, we don't know how good a defense is. We think it's good, but they haven't played anybody. Even the microcosms, position by position. Tanner McAllister has been playing so well for Ohio State. He hasn't played a single slot receiver that can do anything really. And so we'll have to see what he can do. And it's not going to change when they play Iowa. They'll have to defend some tight ends. They've got some good ones there, but so many levels of this defense have yet to be tested. I think we all know the offense will be good against whomever, and it may not be 56 points against Georgia, but it could be 31 points or whatever you need. And I think the questions with the defense are real, but I think there are answers as well.
Yeah, I was a bit amused when Mel Tucker took the podium on Monday, and the first thing he was asked is how a team recovers from that kind of beating. What do you do as a coaching staff to, kind of reset and move on? And he said, well, we took all the positives from that game, and we presented that in the film room, and we cut down all the positives because we won a lot of plays in that game. There were a lot of individual plays that we won in that game. And I'm like, wow, talk about a positive spin on that one.
It's positive spin. It's JFK back into the left, just watching the same play over and over again. Good job.